Hello folks. So in this video we will be discussing few things about AWS, primarily AWS SDK or software development kit, using which we can connect to AWS and use several of its services using Node.js. So in my AWS I have several services you will also be having, for example EC2, IAM, CloudFront, S3, and I can use these services, but this is like using these services manually. What we want to do is use these services through our code, and that is where the AWS SDK comes into the picture. So let's go to our VS Code and let's try to understand how we can use AWS SDK. So I have initialized one empty node project and I have installed two dependencies, AWS SDK and .env, because we will be needing environment variables also. So let's go to our index.js file and let's try to understand how we can connect to our AWS account. So initial things what we need to do are some import. So import AWS from AWS SDK and then import .env from my .env package. And then we need to do .env config to use our environment variables. And now we will do AWS config.update. This is how we connect to our AWS account. And here we need few things that we will pass as options, and this is how we can connect. So we need one access key ID. I'll be showing you what these things are soon, but for now let's keep it as an empty string. And then we need a secret access key. So secret access key, and this is also an empty string for now. And then let's give a region. Region may not be so secret, so we can directly use the region. So let me go to my AWS account, and I believe the region is US East 1. So these are all the region codes, and yeah, you can use this, no issues at all. I think there are some regions in India also. Uh, yeah, we will check later. For now, we will use US East 1 because this is the region that I have now. So US East 1. And now let's try to understand how we can connect to our EC2, let's say. So EC2, if you have not used, are like servers inside AWS. So you can host your applications in physical servers, which these days we try not to use because those are not very effective when we have AWS, where we have a lot of other features also. So EC2 is like, you can say, AWS servers that we can use. So let's say we want to connect to EC2. So how we can do that? So we will create a variable called EC2 equals to new AWS dot EC2. These are like functions that exist within this AWS package. And we have this variable. And now let's say we want to, let's say, get to know what are the EC2 instances that we have. So if I go to my account, go to instances, you will see I have like 5 or 6 instances. Now, one of them is running and the others are like stopped. But let's say I want to get an idea of what we have or not. So like a very simple function. So what we can do is create a function. So let me create a function called async function. And let's name the function as describe instances. So we want to describe what are all the EC2 instances that we have. Now inside, what we want to do is do a try catch first of all. And in the catch part, we will simply be writing that error in describing instances, let's say. And then we will simply log out the error. And in my try part, I will be doing the main thing. And that is, so what I need to do is, first of all, like get the information from EC2, that's all. So I will be doing const, let's say this is the response. So resp equals to await EC2 dot describe instances. So not addresses, describe instances. Yeah, this one. So this is also one default function. I believe we can give a different name also, but anyway, dot promise. So we have our response here. And now what we will do is do a console log, and let's write instance details And here we can print out like what we have. So rest, but actually the rest will not be giving a very good data. We can do this, of course, but what we need to do is rest dot reservations 0 dot instances. We will also see what the rest contains, but if we do this, we will have the good results. Lastly, what we need to do is we need to simply call the function that is describe instances. But right now, the function will not work, and that is because our AWS config.update is not correct, and we need the access key and the secret access key. So let's try to understand what this is. So as you can see, this is my AWS account, and here I have a feature called IAM. And if I go here, I don't recall what is the full form of the IAM. So let me do AWS IAM full form, and that is identity and access management. So this is like where we create users and roles and groups to give them several permissions. So right now it's my account, but let's say it's a company account, and I need to give access to several users who are like the employees of the company. So in that case, this feature comes in handy. So here what we have is users. So this is me only. So ideally, when you create an AWS account, you have seen that you have a root account, and then you have something called an IAM user. So IAM user is what we generally use to log into our accounts and do stuff. And we generally keep root users away from all of these things. So that is exactly what we are doing here. So we have users, and this is me. And if I click on Dipto Biswas, what we will get here is something called permissions is here. There is something called access. Let me go to security credentials, and here, as you can see, access keys. And I have two access keys. So this is what we mean by access key ID and the secret key that you can see. So what we need to do is we need to create access key. And for some reason, it looks like it is not allowing me to create. And I have deleted one of the access keys, and now I can create another. So there is a limitation of how many access keys you can create. So you must always use this judiciously. So let me create another access key, and you can pick the option of CLI for now. And okay, yeah, you have to check this checkbox and that is you understand everything. And next, so it's asking for a description. Let me give the description as AWS access, create access key. And here you have the access key, and this is a secret access key. So ideally, you should not share this with anybody, but for tutorial purpose, I am sharing this. And I will also be deleting the access key after the tutorial so that none of you can use my account, of course. So I'm clicking on show, but make sure not to share this with anybody because this is your access key. And if anybody else has this, they will have access to your account. So, which is something that you definitely don't want. I also don't want, so I will delete it afterwards. So we have these two things, and we can simply do a copy, and let me just paste it in my access key ID. Ideally, this should be going into a .env, but for now, I'm just pasting it here to show you that it works, and then I will just create the .env file and everything. And let me copy this also, and let me paste it over here. And now I have describe instances, and let's see if this function works or not. So I will do a node index.js, and let's see what do we have. So we have a few things, and let's see we have the right things or not. Looks like there is some issue, and let me do an instances dot length. And now if I do a node index.js, so for some reason it's showing one, it is not showing the six like EC2 instances that I have, and I suppose I got the reason for that. So if I go to my instances, I believe it is only showing me one of the six, and that is my, let me check, and that is a simple real-time chat room, which is the first one. And that is because I'm doing a reservation 0, which I should not be doing. So let me just remove this, and let me into an index.chase. And now, as you can see, I have one array of 6 objects. If I do a dot length, now I'm sure I will be getting 6. Yeah. So I have 6 EC2 instances, which is correct. And one more thing, why I said that keeping it like that will give a good result is because this is actually describing one of the instances in details. So you will have all the instances like this. You can like create a for loop and go through each of them. But you get the idea that how we can connect to our EC2 using AWS SDK. And now we will be connecting to few more services and see like what are all the options that we have. So for now, I will follow a best practice and I will keep these two in my .env file. So let me simply copy and let me change it with equals to, and this should have a better looking name. So let me name AWS access key ID. And the second one can be AWS secret key, I believe. So AWS secret access key. And let's also remove the comma. So we have these things here, and here instead of pasting directly, we will do process.env dot AWS access key ID, and this one will be process.env AWS secret access key. I believe there are no spelling mistakes. So if I do a node index.js once again, and I seem to be having good results. So that means it's working. So this is how we can connect to our EC2 instance using AWS SDK programmatically. So let's say you have some requirement where you need to do something like this. You need to get information from your EC2 in one of your applications. So you should ideally be doing this without like doing the things manually. Okay. So we have seen EC2. Now let's look at another service and which is also very popular, and that is S3. So which is simple storage service. And this is like an infinite object store where you can store many things, images, like a lot of things. The sky's the limit. So let me pick one of my buckets. So here you can create buckets, and these buckets are like the object stores. And here, as you can see, I have some images. And let's see if I can get access the information of these images or not. So I will write a simple function that will give me the list of all the buckets. So async function list all S3 buckets. And what I need to do here is again, I will do a try catch. The catch part will have a console log, and that is error listing buckets. And let's print out the error. And in the try part, what I need to do is again, very similarly, I will do a const res, and here I will use S3. Now we have not created anything called S3. So here we have to create something called S3 equals to new AWS dot S3. And as you can see, it has directly taken the caps because we don't have a small S3. So now we have, and here we need to do a list buckets. So this time the name of both the functions are different. So in the last case, what happened is both our function and the function that AWS has was same, but it may not be the same always. So s3.list buckets, and yeah, we will get all the buckets like this dot promise, and here we can do a console log. And let me simply write bucket list, and whatever we get, rest dot buckets. Yeah. And let me comment out this function, and let me do the list buckets because we don't want a cluttered console log. So list buckets, and let me do a node index.js once again. And we have some issues looks like. So, okay. So this is not list buckets. This is list all S3 buckets. Yeah. Now let's do. Yeah. So we are getting, so we have bucket one, two, like we have many buckets and we also have the last bucket that we opened. So yeah, we are getting the list of all the buckets. And now let's see, this is only like we are getting information, but can we actually change some things? Can we actually manipulate the information? Let's try to understand that by creating a new bucket uh, using like Node.js. So let's try to do that. So let me do an async function create bucket. This is slightly trickier, but definitely possible. So what we need is a bucket name. Okay, so let's understand one thing before trying to do this. So let me go to my AWS and let me go to my buckets. Let's see how we can create a bucket manually. In case you don't know, if you are using AWS, this is very straightforward. But in case you don't know, let me just show you. So what we need to do is we need to simply give a name to our bucket. So I will simply copy this name. Instead of bucket 2, I will just name bucket 3. So bucket 3, and I will remove the empty space, not required. Yeah. So this is a general purpose bucket, and generally when we create a bucket, we don't give it public access. And this is like let's say a good practice. And I will create a bucket. Now I have created a bucket which I may not be using, but yeah, this is something now we will do using our code. So let's go to our Node.js. So what we need is only the bucket name. We don't need anything else. So similarly, we will be passing the bucket name inside the function. And then we have a try catch. Catch part is very simple. So log error creating a bucket. And in the try part, what we will do is again const rest equals to await is3. You can already guess the function name. I think it's create bucket. Yeah. And here we need to pass bucket, and here we will give the bucket name. So very simple, as you can see. It's actually more simple than using AWS manually. Yeah, I mean, debatable statement, but I'm sure it's not that difficult, right? So we will do a console log created a bucket, and let's try to get the bucket. So rest. So we will get all the bucket information like this. And we will list all the buckets, and then we will create a bucket, and let's name the bucket as yeah, we had this name before. So instead of bucket, we have the bucket 3, so let's name this bucket 4. And now node index.js, let's see what we have. So yeah, so created bucket, and this is a bucket. So let's try to find out if we have the bucket or not. And as you can see, we have another bucket, and we have successfully like done some changes in the AWS also using our code. But we may not be needing so many buckets, so I will be deleting some of them, which I don't need. But yeah, you get the idea that how we can use AWS SDK to do all of these things. And lastly, we will touch one more feature, and that is our favorite IAM. So we will also try to get user information using using our code. And yeah, let's see how we can do that. So we will need one more variable, and that is our IAM. So let's write const IAM equals to new AWS dot IAM. So almost every feature, not almost, I believe every feature of AWS can be accessed like this. And you can also try many other things yourself. And so async function get user details, and we don't need any inputs. Try catch log error getting user details, and error. And in the try part, what we will do is const res equals to await im dot I believe it's get user. And as you can see, there are so many functions: get user policy, get user details, many things. So we will do a get user dot promise, and not local storage. And we will simply log this user details, and let's log the rest, and let's see. Let me comment these things because not required. So get user details. And let me once again do and not index.js. And let's see what we have. So yeah, we have username, user ID. I think I'm sharing too many things, which may not be good. So yeah, but you get the idea that how we can do all of these things. So folks, if you found this video informative, make sure to like, share, and subscribe to boost the YouTube algorithm. And I will see you next time with another AWS video. So see ya.